Okay, we are at Hilchos Rosh Hashana, Tav Kuf Pevav. We are on Seif Tet. Nistak L'Rochba. So now this is the circumference, horizontal, the width, circumference. That's where you get your crack or your split. If it's b'mi'uto, kasher, then if it's less than halfway around, so then it's going to be kosher, no problem. But if it's berubo, once that split, that crack goes all the way around, or more than 50%, so then it's pasul. Ele imke nishar me'asedek litzad piv shiur tekiah. However, there is one way to have it saved. We're going to learn another way later on. But right here we're saying, it depends where along the shofar the circumferential crack is. If it's if it's next to the mouth, close to the mouth, and that end, it's a problem. If it's further along the shofar, it could be good, as long as you have the shi'ur, the amount of a kosher shofar. Dahainu arba'a gudalim, which is 4 thumbs. So a minimum requirement, according to Orach Chaim, is 2 centimeters each one. So that's 8 centimeters is your absolute shortest shofar. If it's exactly 8 centimeters, then it's 100% kosher, at least according to Orach Chaim. Obviously, if your shear is a little more, so you might want to make sure it's 9.5 to 10 centimeters. Okay, so that's the minimum shiur. Between 8 and close to 10, then you're 100%. Now, the chazan ish might be 9.6, which is the biggest. It's approximately that. I think it's 9.6. That would be the biggest. To be yotze 100%. Now, we're going to add something to that in a moment. Let me just finish reading. Here, I'll just say it right now. There is an opinion that holds it needs to be a drop more than that. Because the Gemara says, what's the shi'ur? You have to be able to hold it, and your size of your hand is a tefach, or 4 gudalim, and it needs to be able to be seen from both sides. So one pair says it needs to be a mashahu more. Well, the Shulchan Aruch holds lahalacha, it only has to be exactly. There's another opinion, if you're looking for chumras, it should be at least 3 tefachim, because there is one rishon, maybe it's Rabbeinu Gershom, who says it needs to be a full tefach seen on each side of the hand. So there is such a chumrah. According to him, it's mekar din, but for us, it's going to be a chumrah. Now, just to point out, for those who are interested, when you measure a gudal, a thumb, how do you measure the thumb? So it's the width of your thumb. Where? It's not the tip of your thumb, because that doesn't really have a real width, and it's not the first knuckle. It's between the tip of your thumb and that first knuckle, or the middle knuckle on your thumb. Right in between there, basically where the nail grows. Where the nail grows out, that's be'erach where you measure, and that's your definition of a gudal. And so, okay.
Is that a kuli alma?
I believe so. I don't know. I believe that's the kuli alma. I've seen that written more than once. I believe so. Okay. Also Torah Shabbal Peh, but besides. Ukeshenishtayer bo kach kasher afilu ima'akev etetkia. And as long as it's that amount, it's kasher, even if the tekiah, the sound changes. In other words, you had a long shofar, and then half of it got chopped off. So now you have a short shofar. Even though the sound changes from what it used to be, it's 100% kosher. Kol kolos are kosher for the shofar. Kol kolos. Okay. Okay, I think we're going to move on. It happens to be the Mishnah Berurah says what I just explained. But okay, well, more or less. Okay.
I think Mishnah Berurah is saying you measure the agudal at the knuckle. He says the emtza agudal, the lo berosh agudal, shesham mitkatzer. It gets narrower at the top.
Okay, so yesh le'ayin, what does he mean and what do others say? Okay, it could be you're saying, I don't know. Okay.
That's how I always understood it means the knuckle.
The knuckle. Okay, maybe it's a machlokas if you look at the knuckle or midway between the knuckle and the end. Okay, so let's go on for now. V'yesh, wait, did we finish? V'yesh machshirim v'nishtayer.
Shara Tzion writes the parish, the Kaimalan halacha b'makom harachad, at the widest point.
That's what I said. The wider,
where the nail grows, that's the narrow point.
no, where the nail grows, well, I guess it depends on whose thumb you are, but where the nail grows is thicker than the knuckle.
Is wider than the knuckle?
I think so.
Not on my hand.
I think it is. No? So we'll talk after. We'll show you. Oh, I see. Everyone's different. Okay? Okay. All right. So, good. Okay, so we'll leave that as a tzarachian. How's that? Okay. V'yesh machshirim benishtayer afilu shelo letzad piv. And some say it's kosher, as long as you leave enough. Afilu shelo letzad piv. How do you read this here? Right. It doesn't matter which half of the shofar disappeared. Let's say the shofar gets cut in half. You can use either side. And as long as it's the shear of the tekiah and you're able to blow with it, then it's 100% kosher. Okay. So let's go on. One second. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. So this is going on the first line. When we said, Nistak, I lost train of thought. Nistak l'rochvo b'mi'uto kasher. So you see, if you have a full circle circumference of it's cracked, obviously it has to be hanging on still, but once the majority of their circumference is a problem, then it's not, if it's majority, we assume as if it goes all the way around and it's pasul. So we first read the stum is this, even if it's the majority, it's going to be kosher, as long as it's after at least 4 gudalim, a tefach away from the where you put your mouth, that end. So because you have a shear tekiah there, the shear shofar, so it's kosher. And then we look as the rest as if it's not there. And then you have a kosher shofar blowing. But the Yesh Omrim says you can have this even if you have this circumference where the most of it has this crack. It's in the beginning of the shofar where you put your mouth. As long as you have a shiur tekiah, kosher shofar, the length after this crack, then that's also going to be okay. Okay, and Mishnah Berurah points out you can be somich on this bishat adchak if you have no choice. Okay, fine. Yud. Dibek shivrei shofros ze in ze ve'asa mehem shofar. Now, if you take multiple pieces of shofar material, take multiple shofros, or you have one shofar that got cut into multiple pieces, and now you glue them together. You had separate entities, and now you're gluing them together, and you turn them into one longer shofar. Pasul, that's pasul. Afilu imesh bashever shekeneged piv shiur shofar. Even if the first piece, it's a solid shofar before you add it to it, before you glue onto it, even if in the first piece it's a full tefach, so then it's going to be a pasul. Even though it's different, because in the previous case, it was one where you have a circumferential crack. Even though it goes around most of it, it's still attached, and it's one shofar. It's still, so that's not a problem. Here, you're taking separate pieces and gluing them together, and the Torah says it has to be one shofar and not two shofars. Okay. Right. That's the drush. Okay. Next, Yud Aleph. Hosif alav kol shehu. Now, if you're going to add on to your shofar any amount, bein mimino, bein shelo bimino, pasal. If you're going to add, you want to make it longer, you want to add another shofar to it, or add some gold to it, or any material. Filu hayabo mitchila shiur shofar. It's pasal even if you started out with a kosher shofar. Again, it's the same concept. We need one shofar and not two. This is just an extension of the previous halacha. And it doesn't matter if you add on to it the mouth end or the other end. Either end you cannot add on to it. Okay. Good bet. Hafacho v'takabo lo yatsa. So the Gemara says, it's a brisa, you're not allowed to switch it or invert it. What does that mean? We're going to explain a couple different perushim. So that's why I'm not sure which word to translate it with. Hafacho, you switch it, you make it the opposite, and you blow with it in your new form of the shofar. Lo yatsa, you're not yotze. What does this mean? Bein hafacho kederach shehochi mechalok shechzer pnimi lechitzon. Now this means whether you invert it, you put it inside out. That's just like a person takes a shirt and can turn their shirt or pants inside out. That's what you did to the shofar. You made the inside outside and the outside inside. Right? You can do this if you heat it up. Okay, so that's it's a machlokes rishonim exactly how to understand the Gemara, but this is the halacha. Bein shehinicho kamo shehaya ela shehirchi v'takatzer v'kitzer et harachav. Or another explanation of what hafacho means in the brisa is it means you make one end wide, the wide end narrow, and the narrow end wide. And you're basically going to now blow from the wrong end, or the opposite end. You're switching your, okay? And the problem is, the Torah writes, Ve'avarta shofar trua. You have to, it's a lashon of ha'avara, which means blowing the shofar, but it's that same lashon of ha'avara is carrying. The way that it grew and the way that the ayil, the ram or the animal, was carrying its horns, which means it always carries it, it grows and carries it in that direction. The way it's stuck on its head, that's the way it's in its natural state. I mean, that's the drasha. But it means the way that it's in its natural state, that's the only way to be yotzei the mitzvah of blowing the shofar. So you can't reverse it. Okay? Also, if you blow from the wrong end, it's going to be pasal. It has to be from the smaller end that's attached to the animal. Okay. Yud Gimel. Haya Aruch v'kitzra. It was long, and now you cut it. You made it shorter. Im nishar bo shiur tekiya kasher. As long as you have a shiur tekiya, it's kosher. Now, it doesn't matter where along you cut it. All right? As long as you have your solid piece of a shiur tekiya, your tefach, your 4 gudalim, right? Then it's kosher. And so this is a great way if someone needs to fix their shofar. Let's say you get a hole or a crack. One way of koshering the shofar, right? We learned the halachas how to handle it, use it the way it is, or fix it, whatever. But one way to fix it, real simple, is you just cut off from either end, and by cutting it off, and it doesn't have to be a straight cut; it could be a crooked cut. As long as you cut it off and you're removing your hole or your split, that's one way to fix your shofar. Okay. Yodalid. Gerdo mibifnim o mibachutz. If you sand it down from inside or outside, it doesn't matter. Ad she'asa'o dak ma'od, and now it became really thin. Kemo galed, just like a scab or a membrane. I'm not sure the exact translation. Anyway, it becomes really thin. A thin shell. Okay. And whatever, doesn't matter how thin you can make it, even if the sound from the shofar is now different than it used to be, because you made it so thin, kasher lechatchila. That's 100% kosher. Okay, Tetvav, right? Kola kolos ksherim. Tetvav. Lo hotzi zachruto ele nikav bo kasher. Okay, so this says you didn't remove the bone. Zachruto refers to the bone that's inside the shofar, because what happens is when the animal grows, you get a little bit of bony protrusion from the skull, and from there grows the shofar around it, and it continues growing that way. So normally what's done is it gets cut off from the animal, and we remove this bony material that's on the inside of the shofar, and you end up with it being hollow. So let's say you didn't remove that bone. You drilled a hole through the bone. Right? You bore a hole through the bone, and now you have a little windpipe because you went all the way through. Kasher, that's kasher, because it's all its own mean. It's one solid item, so it's not called two shofros. And min b'minu eino chotzetz. Aval im hotzi zachrut ve'asami menu shofar. Now, what if you took out the bone and you drilled a hole through the bone and you blew the bone? You treated that as a shofar. So that would be kagon shenika bo. You make a hole all the way through, pasel. That's 100% pasel, because the bone is not called a shofar. Shofar, by definition, it's a hollow instrument, the horn that's hollow, and this bone is completely solid. Okay, so it's the shofar that Hashem commanded us, not to blow a bone. Okay, next. Tet Zayin. Tzipor zahav bimkom hanachat peh pasul. Now, let's say you covered where you place your mouth with gold or any material. That's pasul. That's 100% pasul. Shalom bimkom hanachat peh. But if it's not where you put your mouth, that's kasher. Then that's going to be okay. We're going to qualify all this in a moment. Tzipor zahav b'ifnim. Now, if you add gold inside, you put gold, you line the inside of the shofar with gold, pasul, because now you're getting the sound is going not just through the shofar, but it's going through something else, i.e. in this case, gold. Now, mi bachutz, but if you line the outside or cover the outside of the shofar with any material such as gold, im nishtane kolo mikamot shehaya, if it changes the original sound, pasul, then that's no good. V'im lav, kasher, then it's okay. Now, let me just jump to a quick summary. Basically, what the halacha says is if you have it coated with gold anywhere along the shofar, except by the mouthpiece, if the sound stays the same, it's kasher. If the sound changes because now it's coated with gold, then it's going to be, if the sound changes, it's pasul. If the sound doesn't change, then it's kosher. But you can't add. Exactly. We're going to get to that again later on. You can't add to it. That we learned, and we're going to see that again. So you can't add to the end, the far end. Now, what about the mouthpiece? That's where you have a couple different perushim, and in short, you're going to see the halacha is pretty clear. You're not allowed to put gold or a covering anywhere over the mouth end. That's how it comes out lemaisa, and that's really basically the second opinion, and the Yeshviation, that's the Ikar halacha. Of course, if you have no choice and there's no way to do otherwise, you'll be yotze with the other shita. So what are the two? Yesh mefarshim mikol manachat peh hainu ovei hashofar letzad pnimi shemaniach sham piv. So what does it mean hanachas peh, that's pasul, is if you put it on the inside of the shofar. The edge has a little bit of a thickness to it, the edge of a shofar, the small edge of the shofar that you blow into, 1-2 millimeters, whatever it is, it's there. So it has a little bit of a thickness to it. So if it's on the edge, the inner lining, and it goes inside, so then that's what's going to be pasul. Okay? So hainu ovei hashofar letzad pnimi sheminiach sham piv. Ve'atzad.
Actually, in other words, the first pshat is that the gold actually lengthens the shofar drop with a layer of gold. Because
It's just on the inside, really.
Inside the tube.
Inside the tube, and it's touching. It's touching the inner cut, because there's a thickness to the cut, or there's a thickness to the end. So there's two edges: the inner edge, the outer edge, and the thickness of a shofar, by its definition, is it, let's say, 1 or 2 millimeters thick usually. So
why would one do that?
I don't know, to make it look nice.
You don't see it.
You don't really see much.
So here, you're talking
Maybe
about
the inside.
The inside.
The inside.
Not the cut. There's no gold here, according to this chart.
Well, it's touching either way. Whether it's touching it or not touching it, it would be puzzle.
Right. Well, if it's
inside, it's puzzle, and if it's
outside, we learned already it's puzzle because it lengthens.
So it depends. If it depends if it's lengthening it. Okay, let's keep reading.
Okay.
Let's keep reading, and we can discuss it afterwards. Yesh mefarshim mekom anachat peh hainu oveh shofar litzad pnimi shemaniach sham piv. So really, it's referring to the inside, and that's what's pasal. But ve'atzad achitzon mina ovi atzmo karui shelo bimkom anachat peh. But if it's only on the outside, even if it's touching the edge, but it's only on the outside, it's not a problem. This is the first opinion that's more makel. That if it's on the inside, it's a problem, but if it's on the outside, it doesn't touch the inner edge, and it doesn't, you're not making it really longer, and when you're putting your mouth on it, your lips and your sound, your air, is going straight on the inner edge. So you're not making it longer. So in this case, this opinion holds, it'd be 100% kosher. And it would be okay because it's on the outside, and then beyond there is where it depends if it changes the voice or not changes the sound or not. Okay, that's the technical. If you really get stuck, I don't know. I don't know how you're ever going to have this case.
I've seen such a shofar.
You've seen such a shofar?
With the mouthpiece with gold on it.
Okay. V'yesh mefarshim. So I don't know, I'd have to see it, because if it's on the edge, it's puzzle according to this yesh mefarshim, which is the ikar halacha. V'yesh mefarshim the ovio b'makom akatzar, anywhere on that edge, the inner tip or the outer tip, the inner edge or the outer edge of the blowing side, anywhere there, is called the makom anachat peh, and it's 100% puzzle. V'shelo b'makom anachat peh, but if you go, maybe let's say the next centimeter, it's not clear exactly how much space, but you go beyond that where you put your lips, right there you have a little area you can put maybe a little ring of gold, and no matter what, it's 100% kosher, because it's not going to change. A little thin little ring beyond where you put your lips on the outside is not going to change the sound, so there's no problem. But then anywhere beyond that, it depends if it changes the sound at all. Hainu kol orach hashofar. Really, it just depends if it changes the sound. That's really the bottom line. And hainu kol orach hashofar mitzad katzar ad tzad rachav. Anywhere beyond that is where it's going to make it pasal. Okay. Hope that wasn't too confusing. And okay, Yud Zayin. This is interesting. Amitzayirim b'shofar tzurot b'minei tzivonim kedei lanosa. Let's say you want to paint it or coat it with a little, I don't know, and you want to put gold engraving on top of it. You want to put paint on top of it. Any of these things, lahalacha we say, lo yafehem osim. That's not what we call beautifying the shofar, and it could create problems. It could cause issues of changing the sound. We don't recommend it. It's not a good custom. And if you start doing it, your friend's going to do it, and each of you are going to outdo your other one, and before you know it, someone's going to have their shofars changed. Aval, mikar din, obviously, if the voice wasn't changed, the sound wasn't changed, it's kosher. Aval, the Rama continues, mutar lachkok b'shofar atzmot surot kedei lahanoto. But lachatchila, you can engrave, not by adding a separate material, you could engrave by removing a little bit of the shofar, and that will be 100% kosher. Because you're not, there's no, and it doesn't matter if the voice changes. Kol kolos shofar are kosher. Okay. Let me just, maybe we'll stop. Okay, I think we'll stop.
Shkai.